Both started their journey at the Substation as practicing artists. But as one musician dabbles in the fringe and the esoteric,
I took an old electric guitar and gracefully dismantled it and reassembled it again. I also used an old bicycle where it's been reassembled and reconfigured to be an instrument, and also some PVC pipes for good measure. So that was sort of the first series of dormant music, and as it progressed, this is sort of like part or instrument 7 or series 7 out of other small projects that I did.
the other carries on her father's legacy as Director of Theatre Performance Arts Centre, the Theatre Practice.
I believe that as director, I need to have a vision. I need to have a sense of where we want to go. But there are many ways of getting there. And all these decisions, decide the path you take. And even where we want to go, it's a zone. It may not be a point.
Both these artists have and still are shaping and impacting Singapore's art scene by inspiring and getting more people involved for art's sake. Musician and Young Artist Award recipient Bani Haykal is young and versatile. His works span across multiple disciplines and venture into newer interdisciplinary areas. This enigmatic musician was born in 1985 and grew up surrounded by music. In 1999, Bani co-founded post-apocalyptic rock band B Quartet with his brother and cousins. The band composed and performed original material for local die-hard fans before disbanding in 2011. The following year, Bani joined Singaporean avant rock band The Observatory. He has toured both as a soloist and with The Observatory in France, Italy and Norway. Not only is he a prolific performer, he's also very adept at putting things together, taking them apart, banging, blowing, and shaking things to create new and exciting instruments.
Dormant music is an ongoing work, something that I sort of started ever since I was an associate artist with the Substation. The process was quite gradual up until 2011, where I did a residency in Bandung under the Art Incubator at Platform 3. I came up with this thing called dormant music, which is to sort of like look at non-musical objects or situations as musical ideas. Sort of like the idea that every non-musical object has a musical parallel to it. You just need to uncover details and sort of like draw associations.
Another force majeure in the art scene is the Theatre Practice's artistic director, Kuo Jian Hong. She took over the mantle from her father, one of Singapore's most respected pioneers, the late Koh Pao Kun, who received the Cultural Award in 1989 among several other accolades. Jian Hong has a master's in stage design as well as directing. She started out designing stage lighting for theatre and dance productions. When her father passed away in 2002, Jian Hong was determined to keep the theatre and the arts alive. She and her team continue to captivate theatregoers with their bilingual stage productions.
Because obviously comparing to, for example, a commercial gig, this doesn't pay anything close to that. So there must be other reasons why they would take one job over the other. And I would like to think that, like me, I would walk into the project, sometimes out of necessity, but hopefully most of the time not because of necessity, but by choice. To do a project, to spend so much time to commit, the manpower, the resources, it needs to be worthwhile. The worthiness to me has to be defined by whether it's stretching you, whether it's challenging you, whether you're doing something that you're taking some risk.
Like Bani, Jian Hong grew up in an artistic environment and had already found her place on the stage at the tender age of 3. This didn't come as a surprise to her mother, Singapore's pioneering dancer Goh Lay Kwan. That said, Lay Kwan had reservations about her daughter following in her footsteps.
We do not hope that she's going to walk through this path. It is far, far more difficult just usual kids grow in this family, under this environment, can even take it. So we don't want her to regret, and we don't want her to lose valuable years that at the end of the day she couldn't make it. So we do not hope that. But we didn't purposely try to push away from that, because I think we still have to respect her interests, and we still, if she's going to do it, we're going to give her a lot of warning. And that is what happened. When she finished her A level, she says, yeah, I want to do drama. Then we have to talk to her. Learning drama is not the end of it. You can't do it. You must know how to manage, deal with acting, directing, designing, and managing. And financially, you must be very good in counting your penny.
Some create, while others listen, watch, teach, critique, or learn. Jian Hong did all of them. And in doing so, she learned about life, developed a strong character as well as a sense of purpose. One of the first things Jian Hong did as the Theatre Practice's artistic director was the Poor Theatre series. It combined theatrical presentation by members of Actors Lab, Directors Lab, and Playwrights Lab.
I mean, we started doing Poor Theatre. We, meaning myself, my co-artistic director at that time, Wu Xi, and our general manager, Jia Yong. We decided to do Poor Theatre, not because of any kind of a brilliant, idea, but because out of necessity. We had no money to put deposit for theatre, so we had a space. And for a company to go on, you have to, work. You have to create. So just create based on what you have. And space is wealth anyway. To have a studio like this to work with, we are grateful for that. So we just create within the framework that we can.
Musician Bani enjoys creating works that fuse music and sound together. Through his collaborations with other artists, such as Zulkifli Mahmood, Bani examines the perceptions and relevance music has on culture. Zulkifli represented Singapore in the 2007 Venice Biennale and has exhibited in art museums around the world. Bani and Zulkifli collaborated on sound, latitudes and attitudes, and share a similar yet personal approach towards music. While Bani describes Zulkifli as a pioneer whose work is extremely significant, Zulkifli thinks Bani is a little too modest.
When I first started, I think in terms of sound, there's always the performative elements. For me, I like collaboration, but not all collaboration can work. I heard about Bani, because suddenly you heard Bani's name all around. Then I was a bit curious and just find out about his work. Very humble guy, down to earth. I think that's very nice. Then that's the energy I think is very important. I like his work. I think how he deal with spaces. Also when he start to collaborate with different people, like from the theatre scene also to the dance. There's a uniqueness. I think it's kind of warm when you listen to his piece. Then I've been following, keeping track of his work.
Before Bani even started performing with Zul, he was already well acquainted with the musician's well-honed techniques.
With Zul's work, one of the first thing that struck me was the use of, I would say musical activity or sonic activity in a more spatial form, as opposed to something that's limited to performers being on stage. Outside of installation works, Zul was also involved with Kai Lam, and together I understood and also came to find out that they were involved in circuit bending works, and that was also a different feel altogether, looking at toys or any small gadgets with circuitry to be used as musical instruments.
Through music, one can have a deeper understanding of how art and social change play off one another. Musicians like Bani Haykal have become vessels of social change, affecting their immediate communities and encouraging avid followers and those around them to engage. Bani's works draw a relation between emotion, culture, and experience, and has worked with published writer and sound artist Mark Wong.
So I think Bani is a really interesting artist and human being. I think even when he was starting out playing just rock music, it wasn't just rock music. B Quartet had a very different kind of quality. Bani's work enough would actually always see that he's always come from an angle of social critique.
Ex-music store owner and musicologist Joseph Tam opened Singapore's first experimental music shop way back in 2005. Like Bani, Joseph is also concerned of Singapore's music industry.
I think an artist's job is to question, is to investigate, is to navigate, is to basically try to find out more and hopefully present a more interesting take from a personal point of view to the audience, to whoever is out there who's willing to come in to take a look, to listen to him. So I think whether is it dealing with the sound per se, I think it's basically him trying to be inquisitive and trying to express all these things, synthesize all these things into something that is aesthetically rich for himself and for everyone.
I would like to be implicit about the way I deal with subject matters as such, but I think the main interest is to have conversations. I do take stands when it comes to having an expression. They would be biased in many ways, but that is the nature of expression, I suppose. We think about matters as opposed to coming to a conclusion quite immediately.
So he's the kind whereby when he's interested in a sound, he will pick it up. He will figure out how to master the sound and what new ways he can push the sound. And so with his recent works, you can see him doing that. He's also gone into the world of visual art. So gallery spaces, fixed spaces. These are not performances, but objects, right? How do you create sound out of objects? How do you create sound that even might have involve audience participation?
While Bani's works are known to investigate cultural climates, Jian Hong's plays are also characterized by their dramatic and social commentary. While her parents provided the necessary framework for Jian Hong to grow as an artist, they did not necessarily influence her decision to become one. In fact, her mother, Lei Kwan, remembers the hardships of being a single mother as well as a working performer.
The fact is, we never, after Bao Kun passed away, I never mentioned, I never asked, I never encouraged her to take over. Because this is the time when she makes decision, she knows very well what she needs to take over the post. So we didn't. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to close down the whole thing. I think it's better not to go further than mess up, the whole thing. Then when I say maybe we should close down unless we find somebody suitable to carry on. And then all of a sudden, she says, okay, in that case, I'll take over.
In the end, Jian Hong's determination paid off. She and her team have staged more than 90 productions, including 2002's The Animal Farm, 2005's Lao Jiu, the musical, 2010's Liao Zai Rocks, and 2013's dark comedy The Bride Always Knocks Twice, in which the director addresses the plight of women from different eras of Singapore's history.
I was curious and I was interested in exploring what were these people experiencing. If we're going to do something for younger audiences, then it's not about whether the topic is suitable for them or not. It's about whether the tool of delivery is going to be able to reach out to them.
Working independently since 1994, lighting designer Dorothy Peng first started work as a stage manager for Jian Hong's father. At that time, Jian Hong was still a student doing her master's in stage design in the University of Iowa.
You realize that what she sees and what her dad sees are different. Her dad will be looking at the composition and then like the acting and everything, but she will look at the overall visual sense.
One of Jian Hong's good friends and longtime collaborators is actor Liu Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi has been active in Singapore's theatre scene for more than a decade and joined the theatre practice in 2002.
我跟建宏认识应该是10多年了，从2002年开始，那个时候郭生刚刚去世，然后建宏刚刚回来，我也刚跟实践开始合作，然后那个时候我们两个就有见面，但是还不熟。我第一次跟他合作应该是我们做一个系列叫 Poor Theatre 勒紧腰带系列，那个时候他是导演，我是演员。那个是我们是第一次合作，那个是一个很短的一个时间，可是很开心。之后呢，我们就进入到一个很长的一个创作时期，就是老九，因为我们做老九音乐剧。2005年的时候，我演老九，然后建宏是导演。那他是第一次做音乐剧，我也是第一次演音乐剧。那个时候我也年纪还很小，然后我们共度了1年的时间，所以是出生入死，患难与共，所以感觉关系就好像是一家人一样。
The theatre practice's successful staging of Mandarin musical If Their Seasons in 2007 brought together Jian Hong's other collaborators, including actress Jodie Chun, singer-songwriter Rick Liu, and set designer Wong Chi-wai.
不管是哪一个身份啦，我觉得他都是一个很清楚自己要什么的一个老板或者导演，所以在导戏也是，我其实这次天门诀是才第2次跟他合作，可是好像之前是天冷就回来，是一个很大型的音乐剧，然后作为一个这么大型的音乐剧的导演，我觉得有时候你必须很清楚的知道你要什么，而且很清楚的只是说谁要做什么，谁在什么时候应该怎么样，所以我觉得这一点是一个导演应该具有的条件。另外一点，其实说到他很执着，可能过于执着是不好的。可是我觉得在表演方面，在艺术方面，其实有一份执着是很重要的。所以我觉得他有着那一份执着。
所以他不单只是在教人家以一个导演的身份，以一个创意总监的身份来艺术总监的身份来指导人家等等，来帮助人家。他自己也不断的在学习。我觉得这一点是我非常非常敬佩他的。
As director, she also is very acute to how set or lights work in that sense. So during meetings, it's much more clearer that she can pinpoint quite a lot of things in terms of the functionality of the design.
Art changes the way we view the world. Bani's off-kilter approach to making music often piques the interests of forward-thinking artistic directors, resulting in very unique outcomes. Bani's musical explorations have brought him to create sounds for live performing acts, film screenings, art installations, and other avenues of musical exploration. When LaSalle's artist director, Darren Moore, recognized his versatility, he approached Bani to produce a sound installation for last year's edition of the art festival Liquid Architecture. It consists of traditional and experimental lecture presentations and performances by leading artists.
So this year was the first time that Liquid Architecture was outside of Australia, so it was quite a landmark occasion, and I curated the rest of the content. So that's how this exhibition installation with Bani came about. This year was, what's the kind of socio-context for the music? What's its purpose? What's its role within society?
A drummer, composer, sound artist, and educator, Darren is also a lecturer in popular music at LaSalle and curator of the Chopa Experimental Music Festival series.
I approached Bani because I thought Bani was, he's already very engaged in this area, but more so he's thinking a lot about his artwork and how it relates within a context within Singapore.
Darren, curator of Liquid Architecture Singapore, quite a while back, he's hosted and organized a few free improv festivals in Singapore called Chopa. When Liquid Architecture is the first time happening in Singapore, asked me to come on board to see if I wanted to present some installation work. I said yes. I guess more social theme this year, incidentally, coincided with my work. So I guess as a curator, I guess his interest was to sort of represent the theme that was already set by the curators in Australia. So working with Darren was pretty fluid, straightforward. We have an understanding, and he's familiar with some of my work.
Tim O'Dwyer, saxophonist, researcher, and the current head of contemporary music at LaSalle, looks forward to collaborations with Bani.
So the thing is, what's great about working with Bani is he comes to a collaboration, comes to sound. He's taking things as they are. There's no kind of baggage coming in. There's kind of, okay, what am I playing? Or what comes out if he's playing the drum? And I feel like he's very present. It's like, okay, that's what's happening now, I'm reacting to that. Rather than, this collaboration's got to be this, or we've got to do this, or it's got to mean this, or whatever. It's very in the moment.
Bani's multifaceted appeal and creative flair has impressed many. Founder and director of Intercultural Theatre Institute, T. Sasitharan, picked Bani to provide the live soundtrack for an Indian theatre classic, choreographed by well-known Indian Singapore-based contemporary dancer Raka Maitra. Besides composing the soundtrack for the Intercultural Theatre Institute, Bani has produced work for and collaborated with some of Singapore's most acclaimed theatre and dance companies.
It's not easy to pick the right artist because what we need is a level of musicianship, a level of sensitivity to different rhythms, different melodies, but at the same time, a kind of daring, allow the contemporary artists to enter into a traditional world. Bani also experiments with sound. He's not just about musicianship. He's a sonic artist. So what we needed for this play was a sonic scape, can support a traditional music base.
Raka also agrees with Sasitharan about Bani's creativity and sensitivity as a musician.
I've known Bani for a few years and we worked in a project earlier, and what I really liked about him is he gets the feel of the project, the production, and he's very intuitive. So what Bani does is he creates the mood. the mood of the piece. But in a lot of the sections, we've cut out the footwork and it's all about the mood. And we move to Bani's music.
This year, the theatre practice will be staging Singapore's first ever wuxia musical, Legends of the Southern Arc. Much like the collaboration between Raka, a dancer who specializes in Indian dance, and Bani, director Jian Hong has roped in a specialist, martial arts choreographer Gordon Choi, to help her with wuxia. The ex-national wushu team member had his first encounter with Jian Hong when she was in the process of putting together the theatre practice's 250th production, Liao Zhai Rocks.
Because I heard about rumors that she's going to produce and direct one newly scripted show that is very Asian martial arts. I approached her. I heard that you are going to do and direct a show that requires martial arts. Right? Then that will suit me, right? And she said, yes, it's busy. I'm going to call you in for the show. So this time round, I was given the task to teach all the actors who have zero martial arts background. That some really don't even hold a sword before. When they hold a sword, they are like holding a broom. 炫耀，插，这是过来了啊，哎，换过来，哎，他转身。
In that sense, I crave, differences. I like people coming at it from a different perspective, from myself. I like it when they can think of something that I've not thought about. I like it when challenge or even sometimes overturn what I've thought of before.
通常他们的用法都是一定是这样用法，这样插，有些时候换一换手就这样插。
Being involved in theatre productions demands commitment and motivation. As actors, they have to be willing to try new ideas, accept new challenges, take risks, and make mistakes.
1984年就跟宝坤一起工作，所以那个时候就开始认识建宏，他才10几岁而已。JC 我就知道他了，所以就跟他一起看到他从我们一起唱新谣唱歌 ，OK， 然后还有后来他就出国，然后做灯光，后来郭生走了，他做 director， 所以我一步一步这样看，他跟郭生都有一个共同点，就是很温柔，给做导演要非常有一个温柔的心，然后演员跟他合作会很愉快，所以。 建宏也有这样一颗心，然后跟他一起工作到现在，可以看到一步一步戏一直在进步，一直在现在变得非常的从容成熟，所以跟他合作还挺愉快的了。
跟他合作也蛮愉快了，我也会学到东西，因为从不同的角度去看问题嘛，他会带领我们从不同的角度去看问题，这个点我可以从他的。 他从他身上我可以看到他爸爸的影子，因为我跟郭先生合作是最多次的了，所以这个是我感到很欣慰的一件事情。
Actually, I've known both Johnny and Guat Kian first as a audience, then maybe later as a designer. So it was only till about 10 years ago that I first worked with them as a director. I guess working with them, like with any other veteran directors, veteran actors or any actors actually, something that's similar is you have to be respectfully blunt, because I think actors like them have worked with a lot of different people.
呀，像建宏来讲， 他是一个非常执着的导演。我觉得他做导演，他有自己的一个想说的话。所以像老九，我们举一个例子，老九第一次做 musical 不是很好，有很多的缺点。可是我们再看他的第二次老九，然后还有最新的老九。如果大家有看到他的这个作品，就可以看得出，他那么执着于在排同一个戏，那么你们也可以很清楚的看到，完全是不一样，一直在进步当中，真的是比较挥洒自如了咯。
所以，我们从一部戏，从每一部戏里面去吸收养分，因为每一部戏都在阐述一种人生道理。一种看法，一种观点，我们也从这里吸收到，所以我觉得更愉快的就是跟导演分享这些，因为导演看得更深化、更广，而我们看的作为演员，通常关注的只是角色，所以他看得更广、更高，所以而且他是你的很好的镜子，他经常会很不吝指教的跟你说。他也不会说啊，你年纪比我大呢，我就不跟你说，不会。所以我觉得我这方面我很感激他，因为我们往往看不到自己，我们凭我们过去的那种老经验很多老习惯自然流露出来，就好像很方便的就拿出旧的那种习惯、旧的演绎方法来表现，但是他一眼就看得出来，他就很好的跟你讲，那么你就提醒不可以，我们要把这些砍掉。不要放弃旧的习惯。
One thing that's consistent in working with them is they are always open to a good challenge. They are always game for trying something different. I think having companions like that along the way, not just to be able to go back to ground zero, but yet bring with them those experiences that can be shared with the younger actors, is a very valuable asset in any production.
这个就是他导演的。能够慢慢的启发我，他有时候会1对1的来跟我谈，我觉得这个是我感到很温暖的，因为这个以前在他的爸爸身上也看到这样，所以我觉得哎呀，后继有人，我觉得实践是后继有人。现在年轻从他的角度看，他可以看到很多我们以前看不到的东西。
Bani brings together a group of writers and poets to perform for the Singapore's Writers' Festival. Also, in the spirit of innovation furthering the arts, Jian Hong encourages students to embrace the spontaneity of improvisation in the National Story Challenge. For last year's Singapore Writers' Festival, the theme set was The Prospect of Beauty. Bani worked together with poet Mark Nair to form a collective of artists for a free festival fringe activity that is both an experimental performance and interactive theatre. The event was entitled Off the Page, Music, Auguration of Empathy. The event also gave Bani a chance to speak and engage with people who don't necessarily see themselves as poets or writers.
Everybody writes, and in this show, everybody has at least 2 pieces of text that they have written. We may be musicians, but lyrics, I think they all write lyrics, and Bani also does spoken word. I write lyrics myself, but I think it was a collective challenge to kind of shift gear, shift ground, and rethink our perspective of how text can merge and work with sound and music.
For this project, when Mark introduced the idea of doing something a little bit different with spoken word, wanting to explore, experiment a little bit more with the form itself.
Bani's interest in collaborations stem from his willingness to expand his own as well as other people's perspectives by taking them out of their comfort zone.
For the auguration of empathy, we sat down for a really long time. I would actually say like a couple of 2 months, 2 or 3 months, and we just brainstorm, and you're supposed to write like a 5-minute to 10-minute piece out of that one topic, and it was really difficult, I would say, yeah. It was pretty challenging, but I think I did my best and tried collaborating with these guys as much as I could.
I do music. I've got a solo loop project where I build sound with live loops. I also am part of an electronic duo and a sort of prog rock.
I'm from a little band called The Sounds. I also collaborate with a trip hop collaboration.
In terms of how we got together, Bani just kind of pulled us, Bani and Mark just kind of pulled us together for the project. It was an entirely new idea for me at least. In terms of writing music, it's usually, in terms of text, a very sort of private, like a giggling girl with a diary. And even when the first time I sing a song to other people, it's always kind of that guarded feeling. And being surrounded by musicians, the text isn't really scrutinized. So I've really had to just, in this project, just bear everything open, and it's been nerve-wracking, at the same time just kind of liberating.
He's really eccentric, and throughout these years I understood what kind of system that he works around with in terms of improvisation, in terms of exploring ideas and not working around the cookie cutter system. And it has always been, that's why I always say yes to his projects, because personally it gives me a sense of satisfaction when at the end of the day we present something that I was working really hard on and he challenges that.
Whether you love it or hate it, the purpose of art is to elicit a response. When an artist gets to work, whether or not to make a point, entertain, distract, start a revolution, he or she is producing something that someone else will react to in some way. But what it's really good for is its relationship with its audience. It can make something move in the realm of thought and emotion.
You are a vibrating stranger against my onslaught. Updates in our mouths, open and the trout are always hungry.
Knew she was a deep, beautiful, worldly woman. As evening descended, she sunk into her chair.
Organised by the theatre practice and under the leadership of co-artistic directors Jian Hong and Wu Xi, the National Story Challenge has received a lot of interest from numerous schools. In partnership with the Speak Good English movement, this is an original improvisational storytelling competition open to all primary and secondary school students. It encourages them to be creative, spontaneous, and unafraid to be expressive.
The Story Challenge is something we created about 8 years ago. It came from the idea that, storytelling is something that a lot of students do in school. They have storytelling competition. And what happens in that is they will get a script. So there is really no creativity in that process. So we thought, okay, how do we blow this apart, turn it upside down? And so we came up with this Story Challenge idea, which is an improvisation format. You cannot prepare. You cannot prepare what story to tell. 15 minutes before you go on stage, you are given a title. So we started this program 8 years ago, and every year we'll have a competition that will gather students from primary, secondary school in English and Chinese to compete in the individual and the team event. And then last year we added the Malay category, and this year we're adding a Tamil category.
Participants of the National Story Challenge are given a time limit and are put under other external conditions. However, they are still able to enjoy and express themselves creatively.
I started doing Story Challenge about
2 or 3 years ago, so this is I think my 3rd or 4th year doing it. I find that it's a very useful experience for any actor because the premise of the program is that we do improvisation around stories and creative storytelling. Actually, Story Challenge, I've been doing Story Challenge in both English and Mandarin. It really makes me practice in how to work both languages in my performance, whether it's English or Chinese or even for the other actors who are doing the Malay or the Tamil ones. A way to expose them to the language where they will be interested in it, learn more in a more engaging way. So other than just going to the classroom to teach, I think performing something like this where it's creative and it's fun, it's engaging, it will help educate them in a different way, which I think is very meaningful and important.
哎呀，我肚子痛啊！我不行啊，我肚子痛啊！哎，评评，啊，只答了一半。
Last year was the first time I did Story Challenge with the theatre practice in 2014. So for the first time last year, they had it in 3 languages. So in English, in Mandarin, and in Malay. Working under the time constraint and everything, it's nerve-wracking, but it's fun. And as a performer, it's always good to do something new. And improv by nature just keep you on your toes. It's a great actor training. I like working with Jian Hong because I think she likes me. I really feel that she values everyone in the team.
From the young to the old, multi-talented artists Bani Haykal and Kuo Jian Hong have contributed so much of their time, soul and energy, not only to invigorate the creative scene, but to give people the opportunity to observe a universal truth, that every society in human history has used art to record and represent experiences, to communicate shared social values, to celebrate social or personal belief systems, and to mark the rites of passage that measure our existence. From collaborating with the most respected independent artists in the industry to engaging entire communities, Bani and Jian Hong have made art accessible to almost anyone who is willing to participate.